Honourable Member for Nipissing-Timiskaming.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'll be sharing my time with the member for Mississauga South. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to rise in this House today to speak on Budget 2015 introduced this week by our government. In response to the greatest global downturn since the Great Depression, our government introduced the necessary and strategic investments to keep Canadians working and maintain confidence in the economy. These investments paid off as Canada rebounded out of the recession faster than any G8 country with the best results. Indeed, since 2009, Canada has generated the greatest real GDP growth, created over 1.2 million net new jobs, 80% of which are full-time and in the private sector, maintained the greatest performance of private sector investment, and maintained the lowest debt-to-GDP ratio. This last point is particularly important, Mr. Speaker, whereas many nations tried to fight the recession by flexing fiscal and monetary policy almost without limit, our government, under the leadership of our Prime Minister, prudently balanced strong public investments to support the economy with necessary reductions in federal discretionary spending. The result, Mr. Speaker, is that our Finance Minister stood in this House this Wednesday and announced a $1.4 billion surplus along with a $1 billion contingency. The result, Mr. Speaker, is that without the implementation of this government's disciplined and prudent cost-saving measures, the current deficit would have been $17.2 billion. The result, Mr. Speaker, is that our economy is healthy, strong, and growing. Circumstances of other nations have proven that neither reckless spending nor severe austerity is the answer. Success comes from long-term disciplined leadership. A fact that I am particularly proud of, Mr. Speaker, is that this government did not balance the budget on the backs of honest, hard-working Canadians. Nor have there been any cuts to critical services such as health care or key programs such as infrastructure, which remains at a historical high. No, Mr. Speaker, we balanced the budget while simultaneously reducing the tax burden on Canadian families to record lows. The GST was lowered from 7% to 5%. Small business taxes have been cut. Various tax credits have been introduced for caregivers, volunteers, and those with disabilities. We introduced the tax-free savings account, raised the minimum income from Canadians can make before federal tax rates are levied, reduced the lowest income tax rate, lessens EI contributions, and introduced assistance for first-time homeowners. Mr. Speaker, I could go on, but the bottom line is this. As a direct result of our government's policies, for the typical Canadian family of two parents with two children, savings an average of $6,640 every year. Mr. Speaker, balancing the budget has never been just about sound and responsible fiscal management. It has been about principle. Our government promised Canadians that they would balance the budget, and Canadians sent the government back to Ottawa in 2011 with a clear majority and a mandate to do just that. This budget also cements another promise made to Canadians, that of introducing income splitting for families. The principle for this government has been and remains that you keep the promises you make. With my remaining time, Mr. Speaker, I would like to highlight specific initiatives from the budget that will particularly benefit my constituents in Nipissing-Timiskaming. For seniors, we're reducing minimum withdrawal rates for registered retirement income funds, or RRIFs. We're introducing a new home accessibility tax credit. Seniors and persons with disabilities will be able to claim up to $1,500 in tax credits for specific home renovations. For families, we're increasing the TFSA contribution limit to $10,000 so Canadians can improve their investments and have easier access to cash flows when they need them. And may I just point out to the opposition is that the majority of middle-income Canadians who will benefit from TFSAs, not the wealthy. The facts are that 11 million Canadians have TFSAs and 60% of them make $55,000 or less. We are expanding eligibility on student loans to make post-secondary education more affordable. $184 million for students applying to short-term programs and $119 to reduce expected parental contributions to loan programs. We're expanding EI benefits for Canadians that need to leave work for compassionate care purposes. Benefits will be increased from 6 weeks to 6 months. Budget 2015 confirms the family tax cuts and benefits introduced last fall. They are income splitting, increasing the universal child care benefit and children's fitness tax credit. For small business, we are improving access to financing. Available financing will be increased to $1 million from $500,000, and eligibility will be broadened from $5 million in revenue to $10 million in revenue. We are further cutting taxes on small business, reducing the tax on small business by 2% from 11% to 9% over 4 years. We are further reducing EI premiums. Surplus gained by the EI fund will be reimbursed to employers and employees through lower EI rates. For the space sector, we are investing in Canada's satellite industry, $30 million to support satellite research and development projects through the Canadian Space Agency. As you know, my honourable colleagues, may recall, Mr. Speaker, I've recognized Nipissing-Timiskaming's entry into the space sector on several occasions, and I'm very pleased that the government continues to mark its growing importance to our economy. These investments will ultimately serve to expand the space industry in Nipissing-Timiskaming and create high-paying, high-skilled jobs. We are further recognizing the increasing importance of space to Canada's economy and security. For aerospace and manufacturing, we are accelerating aerospace supply chain competitiveness and performance. We continue to provide accelerated capital cost allowance measures to help manufacturers grow and create jobs. For agriculture and agri-food, we will be promoting Canadian farm exports and improving competitiveness. Over $18 million to expand the Canadian Market Access Secretariat and provide more support to farmers trying to access foreign markets. $12 million of additional funding will go towards expanding the agri-marketing program to increase demand for Canadian agricultural goods. We're also increasing lifetime capital allowance for farmers from $750,000 to $1 million. Finally, for infrastructure, we continue the improvement of the $53 billion New Building Canada plan announced in March 2014. An additional $750 million will go to improve public-private partnerships, in addition to continuing to provide $5.3 billion per year for provincial and municipal projects. New Building Canada plan expands on the $33 million Building Canada plan introduced in 2007, which included increasing contributions from the gas tax fund, which supports municipal projects as well as making them permanent. We remain on the right track, Mr. Speaker. Canada's fiscal position is the envy of the world. Taxes continue to fall for families and small businesses, and key investments in infrastructure, research and development continue to be realized. The budget is balanced, and further measures have been introduced to ensure that it stays that way, with immediate penalties to senior government leaders who fail to keep it so. Furthermore, Canada is now uniquely positioned to attack its sovereign debt, and will do so by applying unused contingencies to it to maintain at least a 25% debt to GDP ratio. All this to say, Mr. Speaker, in this budget 2015, promises made, promises kept. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Merci beaucoup.